Hello class. In this lecture I will be talking about hypothesis testing for proportions. And I will be discussing a one-tail problem. So when I say hypothesis for testing for proportions, we are using Z-stat. So I will try to solve this problem. I will use a problem to explain the concept of proportions hypothesis testing. So the question is, this will be my example question. The question is, a president claims that at least 30% of the students in the university likes color red. So this is the claim. So a sample of 40 students. So you wanted to verify whether the president's claim is right or wrong. So you are taking a sample of 40 students, out of which 8 students like color red. So is there sufficient evidence that the president's claim is true? At significance level of 0.01. So this means 99% confidence interval. So we have this question. We will try to solve this using hypothesis testing. So the hypothesis testing, the first step of our hypothesis testing is to define your hypothesis. So we have H null and we have H alternative, and in this case the president is claiming that at least 30% of the students in the university will like color red. So proportion, if you see, proportion is represented by, as you guys know, it's represented by P. P is X over N for population. P is population proportion. So since they gave P as 30%, our population proportion would be 0.30. So they are saying at least, so this is a one tail problem. So when you claim at least, you are looking at one side of a normal distribution curve. So at least means your proportion is greater than or equal to 0.30. That's your null hypothesis. Alternative would be p less than 0.30. Now you are looking at which statement is true. So that is what you are going to do. So let's see what is given in the problem. So to conduct the test, the information will be given. So you are taking a sample of 40 students. So our n is 40, and then 8 students like color red. So this will be our x, 8. So which is the number of students like color red, and then they gave us a significance level of 0.01. So our alpha is 0.01. So based on this, I can determine p hat, which is sample proportion. So this is sample proportion, which is given by 8 over 40. So this is going to be 0.20. So p hat is 0.20. So now the next step of hypothesis testing is to compare test statistic with critical value. So this comparison, the test statistic, this one. So this will be same for one tail and two tails. So in our Z problems also, you should remember that one tail and two tail test statistic formula will be same. So this is a Z. So test statistic for proportions is we are using Z. So Z is, the formula would be for proportions p hat minus p divided by square root of p 1 minus p by n. So this square root applies to the entire p 1 minus p by n. So our p hat, if you look at the formula, p hat we determined p hat as 0.20. So this is p hat is 0.20 minus p would be, which is population proportion, that is 0.30 divided by square root of 0.30 1 minus 0.30 divided by n is the sample size, which is 40. So this is going to be minus 1.38. Again, this Z test statistic will be same for one tail as well as two tail problem. Now the next step would be to determine the critical value. So that's the next step. As we know, this is a one tail problem. The critical value will be Z alpha. If it would have been a two tail problem, it would be Z alpha over 2. So this is for two tail, and then this is for one tail. So let's try to understand. So they gave us alpha as 0.01 in the problem. So I will try to plot the proportion uh, which the president is claiming. So the president is claiming that if this is the proportion P and this is, I think it's 0.30, so 0.30, and they are saying the proportion will be greater than 0.30. So this is 0.30. Greater than means I will have some value here, and I am saying this is the area, because this is greater than certain value. This is the area where the president's claim is true. So that means our null hypothesis is true. So we say do not reject H null. And then we have this area where the president's claim is false, so reject H null. So when we say alpha is 0.01, this is 0.01, which is alpha, and then this whole thing is 0.99, so this is 99% confidence interval. So both are same. So if we use this, we say 99%, so we can easily calculate this part. If we say 0.01 significance level, they are giving you this, we can easily say 99% confidence interval. So that's how it's going to work. So now I wanted to calculate what is the z value here, z alpha. Since our z table gives left side of the curve, we can directly look for z value at 0.01 probability from our z table. So what is this? So I will go to my z table. So I'm going to go to our business statistics course and then look from our modules. Module 0, we will be using calculation aids, and then download statistical tables. And then do enable editing. Currently we are in Poisson tables. We need to go to Z. So I go to Z and look for probability of 0.01. So I'm going to look for 0.01. So if you see in our problem, we are looking for a probability of 0.01. So I go here and look for 0.01. So 0.01 will be either this or this. So our z value will be negative 2.32 or 33. So z value is negative 2.32 or 33. So I will take negative 2.32. You can use either of them. So z value would be negative 2.32. So this value here at this point is negative 2.32. So now you will go and look for what is your test statistic value. So our test statistic value is negative 1.38. So where does negative 1.38 will be? So negative 2.32, so negative 1.38 will be on the right side of that value, so somewhere here. So this will be negative 1 point, okay, so this will be negative 1.38. so it falls under do not reject H null region. So that means we are not able to reject this claim, so this is true. So the precedence claim is true, so precedent is right. Precedence claim is true. So what we are trying to say is there is sufficient evidence to claim that at least 30% of the students like color red at significance level of 0.01 or confidence interval of 99%. So that is what this statement says. We will try to solve the same problem using calculation aids. So I will go to our calculation aids and try to solve this problem. So this is, again, I might go to a different page. So this is calculation aids. So I will copy down the same values. Let's look at all the values and note down those values. So the first thing is I will copy all of these, your hypothesis to all the data. So our hypothesis H null, so this is hypothesis. Our H null is P greater than or equal to 0.30, and then our H alternative is P less than 0.30, and this will be the given data, which is n is equal to 40, x is equal to 8, alpha is 0.01. So we will try to determine this. Sometimes in our calculation aids, I think we have to calculate the p hat, which is sample proportion, which is x over n. So this will be 8 over 40, which is 0.20. So now let's go to our calculation aids and key in these values. So I will go to our canvas and then download in modules, go to module 0 and try to download calculation aids, and then chapter 10 calculation aids. So do enable editing. Now our problem is a proportion problem, and we have, so I am in a right sheet which is proportion test, and now I have three cases. One tail where proportion, alternative proportion is greater than, and then case 2 is alternative hypothesis is p less than, and alternative proportion p not equal to. So I will try to select which case needs to be selected. I will go to our problem and look at how does alternative look. So our alternative is p less than. So I will go to our sheet and look for p less than, so that is this part. So I will be using this to key in. So what is our population proportion? So the first part, so population proportion, so this is population proportion 0.30. so I will key in that here. Again, gray ones are the ones where you need to fill in. So this is 0.30 and then p hat. So if p hat is given, you will just directly key in this. If these values are given, you have to calculate p hat by using this formula. So p hat is 0.20. And then alpha is 0.01. Let's go and cross check it. Alpha is 0.01. And then finally your sample size. Your sample size n is 40. So you will enter 40 here. Click enter. So again, if you see, our test statistic value is negative 1.38. Our critical value is negative 2.32. Don't reject. So that's what we'll get. This concludes my lecture on proportion one tail problem. Thank you.